So in a recent video, I talked about Wet n Wild and Wet n Wild actually being cruelty-free. So for those who didn't watch the video, there's this whole thing where Wet n Wild is now selling in China, and so people don't consider them cruelty-free. There was a whole post about it from Cruelty-Free Kitty, and I basically was like, hey, this isn't cool. You didn't even mention if you produce a cosmetic products, certain cosmetic products in China, then they are not subject to the same animal testing requirements. And turns out that's what was going on with Wet n Wild. Now, they were not upfront about this, which is not surprising because, of course, they're going to get shit for it. I'm not defending them. I mean, it's bullshit. Susanna, I think that's her name, from Cruelty-Free Kitty, she contacted Wet n Wild like in March, and they were like, no, we don't sell in China. Like, what? They've obviously been selling in China. So that's some bullshit. But, you know, to me, they are still cruelty-free selling in China because, again, and it's what they are saying now, that's their statement, is that they are producing the products in China. But to many of you, including Cruelty-Free Kitty, including Logical Harmony, they still are not cruelty-free because of post-market testing. And this is something I mentioned briefly at the end of my other video. While there isn't any post-market testing, animal testing that is required, there is the possibility that a consumer could submit a complaint, essentially to the government saying, hey, this product did this, or I think it did this. And then that might lead the government to pull the product and actually test it, which at this point would involve animal testing. So basically what I said in the comment that I pinned to the video is that, to me, I don't think that's an issue. Obviously, we want that to change. Obviously, we want any testing that happens to not be performed on animals. But I don't consider that even close to the same thing as, hey, I'm going to pay you to test on animals. And this is why I rely on PETA. I despise PETA for many reasons, but I think this is one of the things that they get right in terms of their beauty companies that they consider cruelty-free. They still consider Wet n Wild cruelty-free. They've now considered Dove cruelty-free, which is amazing. Dove is one of the largest, most prevalent, like, beauty, you know, like shampoo, deodorant. What else do they have? I don't even know. I haven't bought Dove in so long, since I was, I don't know, 15, 16? You have to stop. Anyway, they now consider Dove cruelty-free, even though they are selling in China. They are selling certain products in China. Again, I think there are certain specialty cosmetics like deodorant that do require animal testing, and they're not selling those, but they're selling their other products in China. But again, that means they might possibly be subject to post-market animal testing if, say, some consumer complained and a product was pulled and then tested on an animal. But again, Cruelty-Free Kitty, Logical Harmony, many of you who responded to my video would not consider them cruelty-free. I think that's pretty silly. You know, we want to send a market signal. We want to make veganism sensible. I think holding companies accountable for things that they didn't do, they didn't ask for, they didn't pay for, sets an impossible standards, both for companies and also for vegans. And I think just saying that, well, they shouldn't sell in China is also kind of silly. Let's say that I put out an open letter to e.l.f. promising to personally test their products on animals if they did not pull out of the US market. By those same standards, the standards that we are applying to Wet n Wild, to Dove, to all of these companies, that if a third party does animal testing because the company sold in a particular country, by those same standards, e.l.f. would not be cruelty-free. And no, I don't think a random person doing it is any different from the government doing it. You know, the end result is the same. Animal testing because you sold in a particular place. And it's actually worse than what's happening with China, because in China, this is something that is probably not going to happen. This is not free. Testing products is not free. The government is paying for it. They are not getting money from companies. They're not even telling companies when they do it. They don't have to ask for permission, obviously. They're just pulling products and having them tested. It's silly to think that China is just pulling, products off the shelves, especially something like an eyeshadow that's been sold for how long? Wet n Wild isn't doing anything different with their eyeshadows or lipsticks or anything like that. So it's pretty silly to expect that there's going to be some serious allergic reaction that is going to preempt the government to pull a product to actually test it. And according to Knudsen and CRC, they're a Chinese consulting company who they partnered with Cruelty-Free International for a Leaping Bunny China pilot project, which sounds like what Wet n Wild is actually part of. They said they were part of a pilot pilot program, this might be what they were talking about. Anyway, according to this consulting firm, this is not something that is happening regularly at all. According to them, in the last few years, there has been no post-market testing on animals. And apparently, they expect companies to perform an immediate product recall in the event of a safety concern to avoid triggering post-market animal testing. It was my understanding that that's like not possible because the government is not going to contact you, but maybe it is. But even if that's not the case, again, we're talking about something that is very likely not going to happen. And that's not even considering the non-animal based testing that they might do instead if a consumer complaint actually came to light. They actually just approved 2 more non-animal testing methods. Now, this is for pre-market testing, but it's very likely that we are going to see the same for post-market testing within the near future. So look, could this happen if a product were like burning people's faces off? Sure, but again, that is very likely not going to happen with eyeshadow and lipstick and highlighter and blush, the same products that have been sold in the US for. And, one of the appeals of a Western company like Wet n Wild is, more consumer confidence. Again, China and Chinese companies are not known for being a stickler for consumer safety. And that's just because various safety standards are not being enforced. If regulations are not enforced, people are going to take advantage, whether they're Chinese or American or Spanish. People are people. Again, China is known for having counterfeit makeup, for having tons of counterfeit products in general, but also counterfeit makeup, which can be very dangerous. Please do not buy fake makeup. You can buy it in America too. Please don't. Also, if you still can't abide, the makeup that you're wearing being sold in China, what are the Chinese people living in China supposed to wear? Do you want to put Chinese makeup on your eyes and on your lips? Probably not. But it's fine to take away Chinese people's options for more reputable and affordable makeup that in every sensible way is cruelty-free. What? And what about vegans in China and spreading the cruelty-free vegan message there? I think a lot of this anti-China stuff just results in harming Chinese citizens, which is really gross. Yes, the Chinese government does a lot of horrible things, but I don't think that probably not performing animal testing on certain cosmetics is very high up on the list. And what about the US? If a company sells their products here, they're paying taxes, which are funding the internment and murder of refugees. They're fueling the foreign war machine. And that's true, but it's also ridiculous. If we use those kind of standards, we can't buy anything, right? If you look far enough down the line of indirect consequences and maybe, possibly, probably not consequences, then no product is safe, right? You can't buy anything at all. Nothing is cruelty-free or ethical by those standards. I think it's foolish to only focus on these issues, again, on this thing that's probably not going to happen, while ignoring the benefits that bringing cruelty-free products to the market offers. If a company doesn't test its products on animals, doesn't pay to have its products tested on animals, and there's no reason to believe that a third party is going to test its products on animals, and it actively campaigns in favor of animal welfare and buying cruelty-free and the importance of cruelty-free, by any sensible measure, this company is cruelty-free. And I think Wet n Wild pretty clearly meets that standard. Again, as I said in the last video, I'm not like a, yay, Wet n Wild, I buy all their products. Like, I'm sure they have some shit products. There was some, their lip gloss, I don't like because it ends up like, I have this problem with certain lip products where they like collect on like the inside, like right there on my lips. And it looks disgusting. Like it just ends up this like white gunk. It's so nasty. And some products do that for me, and their lip gloss does that for me. It's nasty. And they also have this like crystal bullshit now where they're like, get energy from the earth. This is good for you or something. Buy our stuff. Like, it's just it's a company. There's no company that I'm like, yes, I will buy everything that you produce. I mean, there are companies that make stuff that I genuinely like, but I mean, look, there's a reason why I don't do sponsorships. I've looked at it. I've been looking at it recently, but it's hard to find a company that I'm like, yeah, I can actually be like, hey, this is good without saying something negative. That's the problem. That's where they get you, right? Because companies don't want you to sell their shit and also be like, well, it's good except for this little thing, which I genuinely can't do. I can think of like 2 companies off the top of my head where I can promote their product without saying anything negative. So it's a little bit limiting for me. There's so much stuff I really like, but I would not feel good talking about it and making money talking about it without saying the thing I don't like. You know, if I ever do a sponsorship, I like really like that product. So yes, I like Wet n Wild. I own a lot of their products. I like that they're super, super cheap and available. I can just go to Fred Meyer or Walmart or like any store and buy their stuff, which is cool. But they've got some dumb products too, and I really wish they wouldn't promote this kind of pseudoscience stuff. You know, it seems pretty innocuous because it's just like, get energy from the earth. It's healing properties from whatever. You know, it seems like, how harmful can that be? But I don't know, I think it's a certain mindset. Anyway, I don't want to talk about that. It's not part of this video, but I hope you enjoyed it. Subscribe, that's cool. Support the channel. Patreon.com/unnaturalvegan. And I'll have a new video very soon. Look what finally came! Pretty cool. This is the 100,000 thing. It used to be like just a little play button, right? Isn't that what they called it? Now it's just on this huge plaque, and there's a mirror. Whatever. No, I am grateful. It's really cool. Yeah, but I had to contact them, and I was like, hey, I'm about to hit 200,000 subscribers, which I just hit 200,000 subscribers. Thank you. And I never got the 100,000, the silver thingy. And they were like, okay, we'll contact the people who decide, I guess. Because not everyone gets this, actually. Not everyone who hits 100,000. You have to be, like, in good standing, right? So if you have an account and you're, like, in 1 million, but you've got a bunch of, like, community strike. Well, I guess if you have a community strike, does your channel automatically get deleted? I don't know. But it's not just, I don't think it's just strikes. Hey, shh. My kid's in here. Gotta be quiet. I don't think it's just strikes. I think it's also if you're just uploading stuff that isn't necessarily yours, right? Because there's a lot of stuff on YouTube that people upload and it's not theirs, right? And it hasn't been manually claimed. So I think if they look at your channel and it's that kind of stuff, they're not going to give you one of these. You've got to be like a content creator. So anyway, they sent it to me. They said it was going to be like weeks, but it came, I think, within like a week after I contacted them. So that was pretty cool. It's like got fingerprints all over it. I think there's some crayon on it. Yeah, I made a little tweet thingy where I was like, there's what my kid decided to do with it, and they just stacked like toilet paper rolls on top of it. And I didn't mean that in like this is how little I care about this. Like, I hope it didn't come across that way. I just meant like, I don't know what to do with this. You know, I don't know exactly what to do with this. I feel weird hanging it up. I mean, I don't know. And my kid was like, ooh, shiny, and wanted to see it. So, you know, of course I let them see it. And of course they stacked toilet paper rolls on it. What else are you going to do with it?